welcome to this last Exo Metaverse hangout in May. We have a very special guest tonight, Neil Gaur from Portal to Ascension. We're so excited to have him. Neil is an incredible human. You know, he answered the call. We're going to talk about how, you know, he was doing his job in finance and all of a sudden, you know, his life took a right turn. So we're going to talk to him about that. Portal to Ascension has really been a major anchor for this community and for this movement. It's a place where people can go and learn. They can take classes, they can watch seminars. We want to ask you about your big event that you just had last weekend. It was like 4 days, you know. Neil has had on his platform over 350 of the most important thinkers, pioneers, and you know, leaders in this movement that have been doing all the research, writing the books, doing the podcast. So he's really been integral in bringing those people together in the limelight to share their wisdom on his platform. So thank you just for all the work. I know it's a lot of work that goes into that. And you know, you've done over 1,200 events, you know, it's just like some of them in person, some of them online. So thank you so much, Neil. And why don't you tell us a little bit about that left turn that you took in your life and what made you answer that call and how did it really go down?
Yes, thank you. Thank you so much, Zenka. Hey, everybody. Nice to be here with you. So let's start I'm starting in the middle because this is the middle of my journey, really, when it comes to why I shifted. I had been into this awareness for quite some time. Like 2001 is when I really started stumbling onto, you know, all the stuff that I really share now when it comes to ancient history and disclosure. And by 2008, when I was a financial analyst, you know, I had multiple jobs. I wanted to do Portal to Ascension. You know, Portal to Ascension started around 2006, and I wanted to do it full time. I would have loved to, but it wasn't paying the bills, right? So like at first, I had to keep doing my regular jobs, but I would find that I just couldn't. I really just being at a job and working for someone just never sat with me. I just couldn't do it. I would self-sabotage myself a lot of times just to not be in that industry anymore and just have to like find something else. But what happened in 2008 was I had just been a compliance a compliance specialist for a brokerage firm, and then after that I went and became a financial analyst for a stockbroker where I was like doing the research for different stocks. And then the market crashed in 2008. So when the market crashed, a trade was made. He lost some money, got upset at me, decided that, you know, we got to go our separate ways. And in that moment, I didn't really know what I want to do because I didn't really want to be in finance. I didn't know anything about stockbroking, like because I was doing the financial analyst side, just researching, and before that, I was just doing compliance, and I didn't want to be in finance. So I decided to learn how to do web design. So in 2008, as at the same time in 2008, I was actually meeting people, going to open mics, performing spoken word, which is something I'm really passionate about, especially spoken word on esoteric principles and universal concepts. And as I was doing that, I was meeting a bunch of people that were like my soul family. It was like the first time I really had this huge connection and sharing so much information with many people. And I was transitioning out of this job as as a financial analyst. So when I became a web designer, the first website I started creating was Portal to Ascension's website, and I started putting that up online and all the information that I was into, just sharing it. It took years, really, up until maybe just a couple of years ago, that it for me to figure out how to convey all the information that I was into. So it was just a trial and error for many, many times. From 2008 up until now, we've shifted and created 4 different websites, and we're about to launch a new website, a really robust platform, in about a couple of weeks from now. But when I had shifted and went into Portal to Ascension at that point in 2008, there were a few other times that I went and I was doing this work full time. I was traveling, and it was too much of a struggle. It was too much of a challenge. So I quit Portal to Ascension probably like 5 times from 2008 to 2015. And it was like almost like this crying out to the gods or the ETs and saying like, I'm done with this. I'm just going to be a normal person now. I'm going to go to work. Just like, I need to make some money. My parents don't like what I'm doing anyway, you know, just going through all those thoughts. And then finally around 2015, maybe, when I decided to go online, 100% online, because for a few years we went online only just to kind of see if I can make that into something, I just made an agreement with myself. I said, all right, if I'm going to do it right now, I'm just going to commit that I'm never going to quit again. And so that's what I did in 2015. And ever since then, it's been growing. 2016, I think, or 2017, I quit my full-time job, my last full-time job as an SEO specialist for K&N Engineering, which is like an air filter company. And I then from then onwards, from 2016 to right now, I've been doing Portal to Ascension full time. And we went from doing, one event a month to now around 110 events a year, full on productions. But then on top of that, we have, our YouTube channel, which has other content coming out. We have podcasts and interviews. So at this point, we're constantly like, I would say, one of the largest content creators in regards to consciousness. But not only that, we provide such a wide range of information too, that anything that I've really wanted to explore ever since I really got into this information, I've either created an event on, or I have it on a list of events over the next 10 years. I have the next 3 years of events basically penciled out with gaps in between them for workshops for individual speakers that may come up in the moment. And it's just like how deep we can really go, right? At this point, not only are we a resource for people waking up that want to know about this, but we're also next level esoteric information for people that want to take their education to a really hardcore level in regards to, for example, quantum physics and how that connects to metaphysics and, things of that. So that's kind of where we are right now.
That's incredible. I love that you kind of drew the line in the sand and said, okay, like I'm never quitting again.
Mm-hmm.
I'm doing this. That's great. So what are some of the things you penciled in, and where are you taking, like, what is this new release that you're coming out in 2 weeks with? Like, what's ahead?
Yes. So when we first started doing events, we were doing independent things. Like I was doing international tours. I did a tour with Dr. Dream. That was the first tour we ever did, from San Diego to Vancouver to Victoria Island and back down in 6 weeks. It was called the Unconditional Love Galactivation Tour, when we'd hook people up to right frequency machines with different frequencies of like self-forgiveness and love, and play 3 hours of sound. And then we'd also had another tour, 2 different tours that were extraterrestrial channeling tours with a friend of mine, a channeler being from Sirius. And then we had a sound healing tour, and then small ancient alien events. So it was so like all over the place. It took me some time to figure out, how to put it on one website. So 6 years ago, when we went online, I got rid of all the live events and all the other random things that we're doing. I just started focusing on these creations. I started, our first online conference was actually Dolores Cannon's last event before she passed, and it was called the Starseed Summit. And she had been at the one before that. So we did the Starseed Summit. We did Physics of the Universe online conference, which was like the science of ascension, basically. We did Sacred Geometry online conference, and that became an annual event for like 4 years. Right now, there's probably like at least 200-300 hours of just sacred geometry awareness on our website. So as time progressed, finally I created this website where it was just online events. And then after that was all curated, I created a parallel section for live events and went back into live events 3 years after only doing online events. And when I started doing the live events, it was an experimentation. I would take Brian Forrester, for example, on tour. I took Paula Harris on tour. We did all of Stephen Greer's events for 6 years, and even right now, all the live streams that Greer does, we facilitate and create it. So at this point, everything started just building and building. So now we even have ancient civilization site tours that are starting this year, and building the team in order to support this. But we've become a full spectrum conscious event production organization. Whereas not only do we have so many events under the Portal to Ascension umbrella, but we can say, for example, James Redfield, the author of Celestine Prophecy, we do all his events too. And he'll be like, hey, I want to do this tour. I don't want to do anything except for show up. We handle everything: Ubers, pizza, Uber delivery, Postmates, right? We got hotels, everything lined up, pick up at the airport. It's all done. And but then say that we have Stephen Greer come, and Stephen goes, I have everything handled. All I want you to do is this one thing. And then we just do that, So and then there are speakers like, for example, William Henry. He has an agreement with us, 4 events a year plus 2 conferences. It's pretty much the way it's been going. And Trisha McCannon, different things. So we have all these agreements with different people to showcase them. But as it's been building, I've been trying to figure out how to put it on our website. So our website was created with all these plugins because I was not as versed in website creation, because I was doing websites back when HTML was the thing to do it, right? So like everything grew with WordPress and plugins. So I was like, no, I'm gonna get somebody to do it. So I got a web. I'm telling too much information here, really. I'm just talking, but like I got a web designer, not a developer, and he designed it with all these issues. So we started doing a whole new website now that is basically like a Netflix for consciousness. From 3,000 hours of presentations, it's gone to 10,000 hours. From 10 categories, it's gone to 5 main categories, which are evolution of consciousness, true world history, extraterrestrials and UFOs. That's one category, and I'll tell you why they're different in a second. And then we have health and wellness and conscious science. And each of those categories has another 20 categories underneath them. Like, so evolution of consciousness, so many different things, sacred sexuality, and the list can go on. When it comes to UFOs and ETs, the UFOs are the nuts and bolts, government and all the other stuff, sightings, researchers. The extraterrestrial information, it becomes a spiritual awareness when it comes to it. So when you go to that category, you can even go even lower and lower into categories. You can even go into UFOs and ETs conspiracy subcategory, and if all you want to know is conspiracies in regards to that, you'll get that. So we have a speaker page with hundreds of speakers, and at this point we've worked with over 500 speakers, and I'm finally putting them all on our website. And they all have individual profile pages with their website, their social media, their bios, and links, graphic links at the bottom with their thumbnails to all the events they've ever done on our platform that directly take them into the Netflix-like backend that allows for them to go and navigate all this content. So around 3,000 hours are 100% free, but there's around 10,000 hours of footage. We have a very small number of members because our site is not a membership subscription site. These are just the people that became members 6 years ago and decided never to stop. So they just become like the core group of people that help us every year. But what we do is we sell individual tickets and we give a percentage to all the speakers. So not only are we creating all this content, but we're also able to fund hundreds of speakers and projects just because we're constantly paying out all these speakers 60 to 70% of all the proceeds so that they can continue their work. And that's actually helped us grow even bigger, because not only are we tapping into their reach because they're the ones promoting their events, but we're also providing, the people that come to our events know that we're providing them with proceeds and we're paying our speakers, therefore that they're actually directly assisting the speaker in continuing their research.
That's beautiful. And it's so necessary because we're not getting this education in schools. We're not even getting it in Gaia. I mean, Gaia's like, still like, it's not covering all the nitty gritty. So, a lot of the speakers complain like, Gaia won't let me say that. You know what I mean?
Or they don't have they don't own their own content. That's an issue in a lot of places.
Yeah. Well, that's amazing. And 10,000 hours, that's just like totally incredible. 3,000 of those hours are free.
It's gonna be so great.
Really cool.
Like basically, it's the reason why I say it's like Netflix. My wife doesn't like me saying that analogy, but she finally gave up on it and just let me say it now, because like she's like, call it something else. Stop calling it Netflix. But it's like that because, for example, Saturday Night Alive, right? I've been working with her, for Deborah Juicy, for many, many years. She's my biggest affiliate. We're going to create a show on our Netflix-like backend called Saturday Night Alive, and you click on it, and then every season will be there. You click on the season, every episode will be there. You can add the episodes to your watch list. You can continue watching later. You can review it just like you can on all these other membership sites.
That's great. So what I was curious to find, content wise, with last weekend and just in general, you mentioned Canon, you mentioned a bunch of people. Who of these 500 people do you think are leading the Exo narrative, and who are they? Who are the shining stars to you that really are coming from a loving place and also doing really great research?
Yeah, and that's split into multiple things, really, because there are people that I see that are doing some great work that maybe don't have the reach yet, but they really should, right? Like Costa Macreas, for example. and like Rebecca Hardcastle does a lot of stuff with Exo. We did the first ever Institute for Exo Consciousness conference. It was a co-production of Portal Ascension and them, and that's going to be an annual event. So she's doing some really great things, and it's just at the preliminary phases. There's not really anybody else involved except for the core team, right? And then there's individuals that, you know, when it comes to disclosure and exo information, when it comes to ETs, there are just too many people to really for me to say there's one, because, or a few, because also a lot of the people I work with, some of them now, a lot of people are going down different routes in regards to their information and are disagreeing with a lot of people. There's a lot of disagreement going on. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
but my one of my actually my number actually my one of the two top topics I'm into, you know, UFOs and ETs for sure, but ancient history, like I'm a huge historian. In my presentations are deep into history. I like to create little mini videos on historical information. I would say that one of the individuals that has been blowing my mind a lot, and we just had twice on our platform, is Freddie Silva. I don't know if you've heard of him.
Yeah, why don't you tell us about your fascination with ancient history
Okay.
and Silva? Yeah.
All right. So the reason why I got into Portal to Ascension in the first place is, well, firstly, it was like probably it was probably an intuitive way to heal the trauma of my childhood. It's probably why I did all this, but it was definitely also because wanted to find the root of all religion. I wanted to find the root of everything. And in that search, when I was like first trying to look into that, you know, I came across Jordan Maxwell, but that quickly got me into all this other ancient text in which I was seeing that there are so many similarities in stories, right? Like I can just list so many off right now when it comes to for example, the Epic of Gilgamesh and Noah's flood, and how almost every ancient civilization in the world has a story of a flood and an individual that is probably the same exact individual. When it comes to the Battle of Troy and the Battle of Mahabharata, the Indian battle and the Greek battle is actually probably the exact same war that took place. And I see so many similarities. You know, Krishna and Jesus, the exact same life. Krishna had a virgin mother. He was a carpenter. He was known as a savior to his people. He basically there's like 20 different things they all check. So when I started figuring this out, I would be at Panera Bread in like 2003, 2004 with my friend, and we would like have the Quran, the Bible, the Old Testament, the Sumerian scriptures, and we would be highlighting information and drawing comparisons and parallels. And so then my question became, well, if there are so many similarities, and just from a little bit of research, I'm already finding that there must be some sort of common origin of this. Why are we all talking about our differences rather than what our similarities are? Because there's so much more in common. And that really is the foundational bottom line of Portal to Ascension, is basically, remember, guys, we have much more in common than we have different from each other, and definitely much more in common than those who claim to control us, right? They don't even probably shop at the same grocery stores. So it's like, as I was learning that and how there were so many similarities, I began on a journey of ancient history and really trying to figure out where we came from and how it happened. I went just recently over the last year. I spent a good 2 months just on Russia and European history for the last 3,000 years, tracking tribes to see where they go and all that. And then right now, because I'm Indian, I wanted to know, where do Indian people come from? Because around 5 years ago, I did ancestry.com, did my DNA. And when I did my DNA, my wife and I did our DNA. So I was like, oh, this is going to be really interesting. I'm going to find out because I believe that my northern Indians, you know, have Egyptian heritage. They have definitely Mongolian, because almost everyone on the earth has Mongolian, and maybe some Greek, because Alexander the Great left a little tribe of people up in North India next to where I was at. So I figured I would be able to find this out. I get my results back, and my results say 99.999% Indian and 0.0001% Polynesian. But anything under 0.1% is probably a fluke. So I'm 100% Indian. So I was like, what? First of all, I was like, oh, this kind of is whack. I wanted to know where, like, the origin. My wife had Iberian Peninsula, native, like everything. But then I was like, wow, this is amazing. I am one of the few people on Earth that have literally been in the same area for like 2,000 plus years, that they don't even have the DNA, the genetic history yet to track back my origins. right? So as I started figuring that out, I went even further into trying to figure out the root of who I am, because the South Indians, even though we have a lot of commonalities, a lot of different civilizations like the Persian Khans, the Mongolians, and the Greeks didn't make it past like the first third of India. So a lot of the Northern Indians that look like Southern Indians don't even have the complete same makeup. And when I did that, I tracked back the origin of the Indian civilization to the Indus civilization, in which Mohenjo-daro was at. And from that, like I'll just say this little thing here, and then you can ask me a follow-up question on it. But over the last few weeks, really, I've been looking into this even more so. From what I can tell, from what I'm understanding now, is that Egypt was definitely much older than we've been told, and there was a land underneath Egypt that was called the land of Kush, and the land of Kush over thousands of years was sometimes was part of Egypt, and Egypt is actually a name given by the Greeks and Alexander the Great time. It was actually the land of Kem or Kemet, which means the people of the black soil. That was the original name. Egypt is completely like a whitewashed name. The land of Kem used to be connected to Kush at times, and then around 3000 BC, they had this like falling out in which the civilization split, and the Kush people wanted to leave and migrate somewhere else. So they went over the Red Sea through Yemen, current Yemen, went over into what the next sea right there on the other side of it, and they landed in Pakistan and Afghanistan area, and that was where Mohenjo-daro was. So, and they went into an area called the was it the Hindu Kush Valley? That's what they call it, and this is what it's called right now. You type in Hindu Kush Valley, you'll see like a mountain range from Afghanistan all the way across the other side of India. Why was it called Hindu Kush Valley? Because the people from the land of Kush went over there in 3000 BC, founded the Indus civilization, named the place that they landed Hindu Kush Valley, and they found a plant there that had been growing there for a few hundred years naturally, and the plant was cannabis. And they decided to, this is where they cultivated cannabis, and this is how it got dispersed all over the world. Then that's why the first ever cannabis strain is called Hindu Kush. And the Sanskrit word for happy is Kush, because they used to smoke the cannabis and get really happy from it. And so I was tracking that, and then after that, fast forward, the Aryans came in from the Caucasus Mountains, pushed the Indians over to the Nepal area, and then they started migrating down south and then inhabited what we currently know as India, merging with the tribes over there. And then over thousands of years, other tribes came, and then that ended up with someone like me.
Wow, interesting. So yeah, it's these migration patterns that have happened over time. Well, so what do you think we're discovering? I mean, one of the questions that we asked the group this time for the collective intelligence survey was, do you think that we could have maybe been even more advanced back then? And I know you do a lot of sound techniques, which are using, very traditional instruments and things like that. But even more than that, like, what's your take on that? Like, in terms of the ancient history, where since you've done so much research, where do you land on that?
Yeah, I definitely believe that we have been more advanced in the past multiple times, and say that we're right now, a lot of people consider Atlantis to be a myth. There's a lot of evidence to suggest there was a great civilization, whether it was called Atlantis or not. Maybe that was just, Plato called it that because that's what he was told. Maybe that was the original name. Who knows? But definitely there's enough evidence to suggest there was advanced technology being used. And when you go to ancient sites all over the world and you look at the stone structure that predates the stone structures on the top, the stone structure below it, that is the foundation, is actually more advanced than the civilizations that came thousands of years later, right? So you see that in Egypt as well. So I started doing some research on the cycles of time, the 26,000 year cycle, the zodiac, the 13,000 years, and then another 13,000 years. And every great most civilizations in the world have some sort of informational story talking about the ages of mankind, in that we went to, different ages, the Bronze Age, the Silver Age, the Golden Age, the Dark Age. But there's only one civilization that actually gives dates, and that's the Vedic civilization from Mohenjo-daro. When the Vedas were created, the first Vedas, they came up with the map and the dating. And the other civilization that talks really a lot about the ages of mankind is the Greek civilization, but it was a poet. I forget his name right now. His name starts with H, and he spoke about each of the civilizations and what kind of person the human was at that time. Man was very much like this. Man was very mental, very heart-centered. But the Indian text talks about dates, and within that they also show that there was an evolution of consciousness at certain peaks where the veils, so to speak, were thinner, that we had more of an ability to connect with ETs, see other frequencies. And from my research, I feel that has to do with the positioning of our solar system. There's actually multiple reasons, but one of the main reasons is the positioning of our solar system and the orbit within our galaxy and the specific areas that we actually go into. And I actually have a image in one of my slideshows on galactic origins where it showed the orbit of our solar system in our galaxy and the different areas of the galaxy and what's occurring there. And then it's from NASA's website. And then NASA is basically saying what effects that this area would probably have on Earth at that time. And we already know, this has been taught since I was a child, that the radiation and the energy of every single body in the universe, including suns that supernova, the radiation, like when it comes here, it affects the experience on Earth. For example, a sun supernovaing 17 million light years away, 17 million light years later, when it comes here and then the light stops and the radiation gets cut off, that could literally assist with the fall of an empire, right? So because of all this, I am now realizing that we probably were more advanced, and we're at a stage right now where have this arrogance of, we have all this technology, we have all this education and ability to transfer information through the internet and more, that we feel that we're the most advanced that we may have ever been. Like, that's what is basically accepted, that humanity has been evolving. But I feel that we were more advanced at different stages, but maybe we didn't have technology in the same way we had it now, that they could have been telepathic communication going on. We could have maybe had an ability to utilize different tools within ourselves as human conduits for energy, that we could create structures, maybe using sound and vibration or our own consciousness, that didn't require like a crane, for example. In this day and age, which is the Kali Yuga, the dark age, it's basically the age of materialism, okay? And in the age before this, the Bronze Age was the age of energy. And what happens is, the age before it, whatever your age you're in now, you utilize whatever the theme is of this age to cultivate whatever the energy of the last age was. So what we're doing now is we're using materialism to funnel energy, and we're using materials in order to like transfer information through microphones and all this. So if you look at a golden age, for example, a Satya Yuga, that comes right after the Silver Age. And in the Silver Age is not an age of materialism. So whatever energy that they had in the Silver Age, they would basically figure out a way to harness that, utilizing the consciousness of the Golden Age. So for people to look into the past and expect to see computers and different type of technology really wouldn't make sense. It doesn't mean that because they don't have this kind of technology that they couldn't do it. It means that they maybe didn't want to do it or need to do it, because there are many different ways to utilize energy and tap into the subatomic world. And ultimately, I feel our chakra system, the 7 chakras within our body, gives us the ability to tap into 7 dimensions of awareness within our physical body. And since we can do that, if we're at a stage of consciousness and enlightenment where we can cultivate that, then we're able to do all types of magical things. Even, if the 4th dimension is time and we become like stewards of the 4th dimension, even the ability to bend back time and not even see time in a linear sense that it is right now. So for us to look back at the past and utilize the consciousness of this moment and our current perspective to class judgment on how advanced they were, I don't think that's really seeing the full picture. And that's just basically the arrogance of where we are right now.
Yeah, so one of the reasons I got into this whole consciousness was exactly that, show like studying the solar cycles and realizing that it had a huge effect on wars in the stock market and our nervous system, and how we're basically have 4 more years before we're at a really big peak. To use that sort of like that societal, that huge wave that's coming in. Yeah. And I also think you're right. Like, so it's interesting how you're saying, okay, so when our chakra systems are in line, we have access to more magic, more consciousness, more ability to do everything, time travel, whatever it is. So I want you to talk about that. And then we're going to do a breakout group, and we're going to have everyone go into breakout groups, and we'll talk about the prompt for that. But before we do, let's just have this final question, Neil, for you about your work. I mean, you've done extensive work with Rife, with sound healing, with whatever. What happens when your chakras are aligned? What happens when everything's unblocked and sort of humming?
Yeah, so the number one testimonial we really get from people that we facilitate sound experiences for is a sense of relaxation, right? But what happens to your brain and your consciousness is that there are different brainwave states that you can be in. There's beta wave, there's alpha wave, there's theta, there's delta, there's gamma. What happens when you meditate is you're attempting to get to a theta state. A theta state is a waking state in which you're basically cultivating peace within yourself, and it's really the state where you can go in and do some actual inner work. So when you meditate and you attempt to breathe, for example, for like 10 minutes to get to that state, or if you're whatever technique that you may have in order to get to that state, what sound does and what they've proven now through hooking people up to EEG machines is when they play these sound frequencies, mostly specific sound tones, but almost really every ancient sound instrument like the didgeridoo, like the Tibetan bowl or tuning fork, it actually gets you to a theta state within like 5 minutes or less sometimes. So what sound is, like Bashar says, is a permission slip to get to a state of consciousness faster than if you're doing it on your own. And it so it allows you to have that to get to the state of like relaxation or doing the inner work in a very fast manner. Plus, it's a frequency. We're all made out of subatomic atoms. This light shade in front of me is subatomic atoms. This bottle, the computer, yourself, we're all made of these vibrating frequencies that are even smaller than an electron. And everything that vibrates can affect your vibration. Not only are we playing the world like an instrument, but the world is playing us back. You know, not only are we playing the world like an instrument, but all the people around us are emanating a frequency because their subatomic particles are vibrating, creating an electromagnetic field. That electromagnetic field increases in diameter based on how fast your subatomic particles are going. Your electromagnetic field is what? Your aura. It's an actual scientific thing that exists. You increase the vibration of your electromagnetic field, it expands, you expand it, you encompass other people, intuitive skills start coming online, all these other elements. So to answer your question, what happens to people is there's just a huge range of experiences and you can use it for whatever you want. And now that we are in a more advanced age than we have been for the last couple thousand years at least, that we're able to create different types of frequencies and put them in lab-like experiments and see what happens to cells in those situations. And that's what many people have done in regards to cancer. Greg Braden's released research on this too, that different sound frequencies can have a certain effect on specific ailments. Now, you can't really say that it can heal or assist you in complete reversal for anything like that. You can only really legally talk about how it's a meditative experience. But from what I've seen, is not only is there like there's like sound chambers now that you can code in the frequency people can step into. There's sound beds that have digital and also acoustic harp beds that people are getting great experiences from. And I'll just give you two testimonials from people that have had physical experiences. At one time, we went to our friend's house and we did a sound healing there for him and a few of his friends. I think his friends that came had never experienced sound before. And this lady, she was basically experiencing the sound healing that we're doing, and she was touching her side right here, like her leg, thigh area, and stomach a little bit. So I observed that, and I was wondering what's going on. I was like, oh, maybe she's one of the people that really doesn't like this, you know, and she's uncomfortable. And then we went home, and my friend called my wife later, and said, "Hey, you know that girl that was here right now? She had not had her period for over a year, and as soon as she left, it started up again." And the interesting thing was that we were in a rush when we left, and we only brought D bowls with us, and the D bowl is the sacral chakra for the sexual organs. So, and just another example is we met who's now a great friend of ours. She came to a sound healing and she was in a wheelchair, and her mother had like 70% or so clogged arteries. And then when they came to one of our sound experiences with a gong, they just went on a sound healing binge. And they basically say that, you know, at least like 50 to 75% of their healing was going to these sound experiences that helped them, you know. And so when you get to this level of inner peace or cultivating it within or theta state, you're then able to, your body can go into a relaxation state and start actually healing itself, and its automatic process kicks in. But what sound does, it reminds your body how it was at its original state. So when it goes to your body, it almost like it triggers a mechanism. And the science behind it is that the sound frequency, this is the science from a scientist, that a sound frequency goes up to the cell, it coats the cell, it basically knocks on it like a door, the cell opens, and then a ligament comes out and grabs the sound frequency and it goes in there. And that's what happens to almost for every cell for anything. But this is what happens with sound. But what does the sound have? A specific hertz vibration. What is the hertz vibration? A message. So it opens it up, it goes in, it tickles it, it opens it up, goes in, and then whatever the frequency is in there gives the message to the cell, and then the cell acts accordingly.
Yeah, fascinating. Um, I think that we're going to have so much more coming out with frequency and sound healing. It's just really growing.
It's
You know,
just
I
the beginning.
remember, yeah, I remember some guy taking tuning forks to my auras, like, oh yeah, this chakra's off, this one's not. You know, it's like he could just hear it, you know. Okay, so Neil, as you know, we're doing this incredible sort of documentary series that we're nursing along about your first contact experience. So this could be any type of way that you've had it. You can also talk about your best experience, but the idea is to really encourage people to be curious, and we'd love to hear what your experience has been.
All right. Should I begin now?
Yes, yes.
Okay. So my whole life, I wanted to have a contact. Well, not my whole life, but since I was awake into this information, I really thought like, how great would it be to have this contact experience? And I haven't really had an intentional, maybe intentional on this like, and you know, a subconscious level, but I haven't had really a conscious actual interaction with ETs, so or interdimensionals or anything like that. They have There was a point where I was kind of down and out and was going to quit Portal to Ascension, one of the few times that I was going to quit. And I would be like screaming out to the universe, basically, give me an experience. Let me know this is real, you know? And then one time I had a dream that told me that I basically wasn't supposed, actually, it wasn't a dream. I was on ayahuasca, actually. And Mother Ayahuasca told me, or something that I told myself via my ayahuasca, that I my intention and my reason for life and what I'm doing isn't about the direct experience, but to do it from a place of knowing and complete, you know, understanding that this is my mission on this earth. So I let go of the need for an experience. But there was some time for like, I would say a couple of years, almost every single night, I was asking to be abducted. And I was like, take me like that. And my wife, she is an experiencer, and she has had experiences that are kind of very interesting since we've been together. And she would tell me to stop begging for experiences because they would come to see her. She would have those experiences. So I have had a couple of dreams that are, you know, sometimes a repeat dream or a really tangible lucid dream. And one dream that really sticks out that has stayed with me ever since I've had it was a dream in which I was on a spacecraft somewhere in our solar system, and what I believe now to be orbiting Maldek. And then I went into, basically I was in this, so I went to sleep in my current, like, on Earth right now. I went to sleep, and then as soon as I went to sleep, the first thing in my dream was me opening my eyes and a cloud of smoke coming over off my eyes, and this, I was in a stasis chamber on a spaceship, and then the shield coming off, these injections coming out of my hand, and basically I was in stasis in cryo, and then I was awake, and I would see all these people going through the armory to get weapons to go down to Maldek. And so I went in line, I was getting my weapon and everything, but then I teleported down to Maldek, and then I was in this huge war and just like battling like with these like next level weapons. And then all of a sudden within that, and I was lucid, and within that dream I actually then transferred my consciousness and I became the person that I was actually fighting against. And I realized in that moment that my soul was actually experiencing two different things on both sides. And after like being in the war for a while and transferring back to consciousness of the current person that I was in that dream, I went back to the spacecraft, and then I went back into the stasis chamber. The injections went into my hands. It was a red and a red and a black injection on each hand, and the shield went over. I went back into stasis, and right then in that second, I woke up back onto Earth. And to me, that was like, and I'm a actually pretty much a skeptic at heart, so I don't really take these things for lightly, and I always discredit a lot of times I had these experiences, but that for me was really tangible. And after that, I've had other experiences where I've talked to people, been to contactee groups, and spoke to other researchers about the whole history of Maldek, and I do feel that I was on there and had an experience, and maybe I was in a war or something like that. But I also realized that there was some kind of drug that they were giving everybody on that spacecraft, and it was black and blue, black and red. And the next day I went into my closet and I realized all my clothes were black and red. So I was like, did I like subconsciously like pick up on this, so in regards to other experiences, I've had sightings that have been pretty phenomenal. One that I just remembered yesterday when I was having a conversation with someone, and then they helped me remember it, was I was in Corona del Mar in California, and I was outside and it was overcast, and there was this huge light that was on top of the cloud, so you could see like the light projecting from the bottom of a UFO on this cloud. And then all of a sudden, 9 other exact same ones all around in this huge circle that must have been multiple football fields long happened. And then it stayed there for like 30 minutes. And I brought all my friends out. We all saw it as well. And that was something like next level technology, nothing that you can like mistake for anything else, especially because of how big it was. And in that same area, just a couple of months prior to that, I saw a craft in the sky in Corona del Mar Beach, and then all of a sudden I saw a portal open up, and then the craft went in it, and it looked like just like you would see in any movie in regards to like a craft going through a wormhole and like transitioning out of Earth's atmosphere to go to another place. So I've had these experiences, and I do personally believe that many sightings that we have are, that are ETs or interdimensional beings are done intentionally. It's not like they randomly show up and they accidentally get seen. I believe when they come and they show themselves to you, they want to be seen. And there's some people like my friend who channels a drone is from Sirius that says a lot of times that the beings that you see in these, or the beings that are actually piloting these crafts, are either part of your star family or other versions of yourselves, or even sometimes an extraterrestrial version of yourself coming in to check in on the experiment in the physical realm. So those are kind of the experiences I've had. But I do for sure know, and I feel that I am getting downloads a lot from how to create everything, and it's coming from some divine source, whether it's ETs or interdimensionals, or that's just part of my mission, is really just to receive this information right now and utilize technology in order to get this awareness out to more and more people.
Wow, that's really cool. Why don't you talk more about that? Like how, do you get to a point where you say, oh gosh, what should I do? Or does it just come to you? Or how do you feel that you've been guided?
The more and more I trust that it's going to come to me and that I don't need to be afraid of like hitting a roadblock, the more I'm able to just keep flowing. And so at this point right now, I have a master list of all the projects I'm going to do and things I got to implement. And as I'm doing everything and creating, there's so many more things that come to my mind. So I just put it in my list, and then everything is just checks off. Like after I've done everything before that, when I get to that item on the list, then I can start cultivating and creating that project. And a great example would be the sites, the international tours to ancient sites that we're starting this year. That by next year or even the year after that, hopefully we have 3 or 4 international tours going on. That's something that came to me at one point that I was like, oh, we should really grow into, and I just put it on my list. And now I just happen to be at that place on the list because I've done everything before it. So there's a I feel that like my mission on this earth is definitely for like the upliftment of humanity and consciousness, but also to be a resource for a lot of speakers and presenters and healers that should be able to focus 100% on their craft and their art and their information. And I can handle all the other elements that they need, such as marketing, tour arrangements, all the mundane linear information, and also all the creative aspects in regards to like how we're going to present it online. So I've been able to utilize technology to not only assist people that are already well established, but also take people that aren't well established and give them a platform to get their information out and just become that that technological resource for anybody to use. And right now we're at a place that we actually are co-producing a bunch of conferences with people, maybe 6 or 7, no, I would say like at least 10 events a year. Some of the multi-day events, like the hybrids conference that we got going on, 2-day conference on hybrid extraterrestrials, are co-productions. And so we're able to white label our services, even emails, and like change it to the name of the person and the organization in order to create something for these individuals. So a lot of people that have something that they want to create, say somebody has an idea for a great conference and they want to do it, but they just don't have any of the resources and they don't want to just start from scratch. If they come with a proposal to us, we're able to take that idea if it's something that we feel we can work with. And a lot of times it is, because when we did the one on the walk-ins, for example, I wanted to do a conference on the walk-ins for 3 years. And then someone came up to me and said, "Hey, do you think we can do a conference on walk-ins together, a 3-day conference on walk-ins?" And I was like, yes, because I wanted to do it for 3 years, but I can't do it by myself. So now we're able to also offer that as a resource to the public too, that if people have ideas and they want to co-produce, there's we can really make something magical together. And it actually, even though it assists me in creating more content, it also takes a lot of the burden off me, because if I'm not producing the whole thing myself and managing the speakers and all that, then I'm able to work with other people and create even more and more events. So that's what's been happening. The reason why we went from 80 events 2 years ago to 110 minimum right now is because of all these individuals that are coming on and assisting with different parts of production.
That's so great. That's like, yeah, you're solving the missing ingredient for so many people, and like you said, like giving a chance for them to support their work and things like that. So why don't we talk about that? Why don't we talk about hybrids and walk-ins?
Yeah, let's do it. Okay, so should I begin?
Yes.
All right. Okay, so
And if anybody else has questions, go ahead and type them into the chat. I'm gonna
this.
wait on some of these because Mark is in a breakout group. So
Oh, okay, yeah.
there's some of the people that are asking, but you guys, if you feel like a question is boiling up for you, but in the meantime, we'll get the juicy lowdown on walk-ins and hybrids. Fascinating topic.
Mhm. Okay, so what was the question again? Okay, walk-ins.
So yeah, what's been your understanding? What was the nuggets of not wisdom that came through there, and what got you interested, and who were the speakers, and what was the takeaway
Yeah.
on those topics?
Well, Sheila Seppi is the individual that reached out to me. Alan Steinfeld hooked me up with her, and now I'm producing 4 events a year with her. One's on the walk-ins, one's on hybrids, one's an Indigo conference, one's a Starseed conference, and the Indigo and Starseed one are going to be towards the end of the year. And I've been interested in walk-ins, but also skeptical about it, because anybody could really say they're a walk-in, but how are you going to really prove it? So I wanted to explore it, but I didn't really know enough people that claim to be walk-ins or researchers on it. I know Barbara Lamb and Mary Rodwell, but they do many things. So Sheila reached out to me and said, "Hey, would you be open to doing it?" Because she came out with a book on walk-ins called Cosmology of the Soul. And on that, she splits into this, I think she says there's 6 different types of walk-ins. And those are just, even she says that even though we say 6 different types, those are just labels so we can identify with them as humans, but the different makeup of it. But what it basically comes down to, what a walk-in is that there is usually it's a swap out between the current consciousness occupying the human vehicle and a consciousness that is not from this current timeline or on Earth. A lot of times it's extraterrestrials, interdimensional beings. Many of the walk-ins, we had 22 walk-ins, and then Barbara Lamb and Mary Rodwell's 24 people altogether in 3 days. And many of them have a range of stories. A few of them say that they came directly from a realm of the angelic realm, and they talk about that, and they've never really had an incarnation in a physical experience before, so they talk about the non-physical experiences they had. And then there are those that say they came from the Arcturian system, and so on and so forth. And what usually happens is that the swap out normally occurs from a traumatic experience. So when the individual has a traumatic experience, sometimes the soul and the consciousness wants to just check out, and then they have an agreement where this other soul can come basically take over. However, it's never really a takeover, because the other soul that takes over is just another aspect of your multidimensional self. So it might be, say an Arcturian soul comes in and you leave, it's actually your own Arcturian consciousness transferring into your own body. It's not really like a completely separate entity. It's usually connected to you somehow. I haven't come across any person claims to be a walk-in that claims to be someone else. Normally, all of them say that it's another aspect of who they are. And a lot of times when they come down to earth, they come with their memories, but some of them don't come with the memories. And then they go to like people like Barbara Lamb, and they do hypnosis regressions, and then all of a sudden these memories start coming back. What it also seems like, even though it's kind of a paradox, even though this traumatic experience happens and then this individual leaves and then another consciousness comes in, a lot of times they've been saying that these agreements that they have are actually soul contracts that took place before they even incarnated. So that whole entire experience of this trauma is going to happen to you, you're going to leave the body, and I'm going to come down, and you're going to have an option at that point to decide whether you are willing to accept that contract or not. And so we did a conference on it, 22 different speakers, all types of information, from information on the way planets looked, the way people were, the type of music that was in the dimension that they came from, all the way to the ultimate information, which was why they're here right now. So a lot of them were speaking on that. And a good 11 of them aren't like international speakers. They're just walk-ins that walked into some body that has now connected to Sheila Seppi, because she wrote this book and they were featured in the book. There was like a lady from Norway. There's just her and her family in Norway that just does these, like, she's a Reiki healer, does all this type of energy work. And she's never spoke about her experience of being a walk-in before. But she has been, and she hasn't really been trying to get out in the circuit too. So it gave a platform for a lot of people to share their stories and give a wide range of experiences. Because even myself, as a person who knew what walk-ins was, I didn't even ever get to experience like 22 different individual stories in regards to that information. So it was amazing. And what we're going to do now is we're going to actually do this as an annual event, because there are more than 22 walk-ins. There's probably like hundreds of thousands, if not more. So we're going to keep exploring this and give them a platform to share their information.
That's fascinating. Yeah, the person that I know that's a walk-in said that, yeah, that it's this tragic experience, like almost died, yeah. So that's interesting. So what about we have a question from Rob. We didn't touch on hybrids, but let's take this question here. Rob's asking, do you think humans are ready for ETs? Or do you think humans need to prepare, to enter this intergalactic community?
I think both. I think like we need to deal with that collective trauma from not only this life, but from probably past lives, and that's in our cellular DNA. And that right now we have an opportunity. Not only it's not that time is speeding up, it's consciousness is expanding. Consciousness is expanding on such a rate that it seems like time is speeding up. And since that is occurring, we're also in a world where we have more stimuli than we've almost ever had before. That just in one day, you're able to interact and have so many different reflections of yourself, that it just gives us the opportunity every single moment to really transcend trauma. Like we have the opportunity. A few hundred years ago, someone would be in their own village and they wouldn't even go more than half a mile away from their own house and see just the local 3 people. Right now, we're at a place where we have all these stimuli. So what has been presented is an opportunity to have all these reflections bring out certain things within us so that we can heal and deal with it, so we can be in this world where we have open ET contact. I feel that we are ready because there are groups of people that are already prepared for it. There's even entire cities and in cities and individuals that are probably like spiritually prepared for it. Now, if the collective of humanity is ready to look at themselves and rearrange the structure of their institutions when they realize that ETs exist, and it's also connected to our ancestry, and a lot of the gods and the angels that we spoke about and all these religious texts are completely linked to these beings, and maybe that we projected God consciousness on them because of their technology and their like light bodies or whatever. I don't know if everybody's ready for that, because there is like organized religion is still really huge. So when it comes down to an ET landing here, there's going to be a lot of questions as to what it means for religion, which is why specific religious leaders, including the Vatican, has already mentioned the existence of ETs are probably reality because they're really stepping up for it. So humanity, I feel we have no choice but to have full disclosure in order to put everything on the table. I'm all for complete honesty, complete openness. How everybody's going to deal with it, a lot of people are going to go through a dark night of the soul. They're going to have to really like look at them and check in with themselves to see what this means for them. I don't feel that it needs to ultimately, like, we may have some challenges and some hardships before we get to this realm of light. We have a lot of traumas within ourselves. We have a lot to experience and a lot to get over, and have to come together as not only a human race, but also with the animals on the planet. Like, we disrespect everything, you know, not all of us, but just in general, the way society is created. So we need to continue doing this healing, which is why Portal to Ascension, we're about ETs and UFOs, but what is the bottom line of everything we do? Is we basically inform and teach people on how they can heal themselves so that they can be the beings that are worthy of being the caretakers of the planet. And as the more and more we're able to do that, the more we're able to move into a reality where open contact occurs. I feel that this age is going to be, you know, and maybe some people in the past have said like that, you know, that this age is the age where we transcend karma, right? But we've gone through these cycles so many times. But right now we have the opportunity, we have the intellect, we have the know-how, we do have the education, and we have the tech, like the actual physical technology to create peace on earth and inform the masses of some truth. If we change the educational system, if we like indoctrinated our youth with the right information and gave them freedom and didn't put people in these schools in order to get them ready for 9 to 5, and gave people more time in order to think for themselves and reflect on who they are on this planet, and rather than figure out how to be a more productive person of society, all of those things and have been created. We know how we can create a world like that. Some places have already attempted it. So it's not like we're ignorant to that information. So we are ready because we already know how to create society in a way to make it that we can actually have open, peaceful contact. But it's not happening because these institutions are controlled by elite that do not have our best interest in mind. So I feel that it's going to happen eventually, whether it's going to happen while we're still in the process of healing, or whether they're going to wait for us to really have this, like, get over ourselves basically before they have open contact. That I don't know, but I'll just refer back to the Israeli space chief that said that the Galactic Federation, for example, he said is waiting for us to basically mature and grow up before they have open contact, because right now we're not at a state of consciousness that they really want to interact with us, because who knows how we're going to react, right? And we don't even have the sovereign power. A lot of people in the countries do not have the sovereign power to come up with agreements and arrangements with extraterrestrials. If they were to come and land right now, it would be our governments, and most governments in the world are corrupt, right? So it's like, to answer your question, it's not really answerable. I do feel that it's going to happen no matter what, but how it's going to happen, if we're ready for it and all that, that's going to be up to the individual, which is why I feel there's going to be open contact interaction with small groups of people before there's open contact worldwide.
Yeah, I think that's so fascinating. And I'm glad you're bringing up the healing thing, because that really is, you know, the world is waking up, and that's the first thing you got to clear, right, is healing. And what do you think are the best ways, like modalities and the
Mhm.
best pathways for people to go through that healing?
Yeah,
Obviously it's like a never ending process, but
right, right.
it's what has been your experience of the most powerful ways and the most powerful people that are supporting that?
Okay. Well, before I say that, let me just add this to what I was saying. I feel like every time we transcend a dimension and shift to another one, it's almost like there is this black hole, and we started out on the outsides of the black hole, and then we just getting closer and closer to the center, and then ultimately, like right now, and say that you're over here like 300 years ago, you're right at the end of the black hole, and you just have very little stimuli to have a reflection on healing things that maybe are in your DNA from many, many lives. And then you get to modern days where you're almost like spinning around that black hole, having the same experiences come up in every single day for you to transcend. And then all of a sudden you become and you fall into the singularity, and then you reemerge into another black hole, which is another reality that you go into. So I feel we're at that place right now that we are about to fall into the singularity, but it looks really fast and chaotic as we're about to do that. And then when we get into there, then there's this beauty on the other side. So there are many modalities that people can utilize to help, transcend and cultivate some inner peace or do some healing. Their sound is definitely great, but if you've got some really deep underlying issues, for example, like I had, my parents were great, but I still had some issues, being brought up. I was molested as a child. It's been a lifelong journey to even get over that. I'm still not fully like healed from it all. And I know these things inhibit me and create calcification within my own consciousness that don't even allow me to see. My first 5 ayahuasca journeys, I didn't see anything. And the only message I got was deal with yourself before you can see. And it was because I was so like calcified, I wasn't even ready to open my consciousness to anything. So my whole journey has been hundreds of different modalities, really trying to see what can assist me in healing my own traumas. The few that I've come up with that work great for me would be something for like the physical one would be rolfing, right? Have you heard of rolfing before? Right. So rolfing is amazing because it literally like unlocks traumas within your own body and you get to process it, and it's like releasing like cellular like trauma basically, and then also working with your fascia, making sure you're aligned properly so that your energy flows through your body more correctly. So it's helped me become very, very present. And sometimes when I'm going to do something really huge, I go get Rolf first, and it just makes me feel more grounded on earth. So that's something that I've loved. And then plant medicine has assisted me a lot. I don't just throw it out there and recommend it to everybody, but because I had some really deep underlying traumas doing psilocybin ceremonies, combo for detoxification. But ayahuasca has probably been one of the biggest teachers for me that has helped me, get over a lot of issues. And then my third one, so Rolfing, plant medicine. My third one was Vipassana meditation, which is 10-day silent meditation retreats. I've done about 6 10-day silent meditation retreats and like 5 3-day ones. And it's completely free, donation based. They're all over the world. There's like 4 of them in California. And you go up there, you meditating for 9 hours. There's a specific meditation technique. And what that does is this Buddhist is so Buddhist that it's not Buddhist. That's how Buddhist it is. Because Buddha did not want anybody to create a religion. Even though every prophet didn't really want them to create a religion out of themselves, Buddha is documented writing it down. Please do not create a religion. And so the technique is using a conscious meditation technique in order to release what's called sangharas. And sangharas are deep underlying patterns and synaptic connections in your consciousness and brain and body that have calcified over time, that have made it really difficult to break away and create new patterns and belief systems. So when you do this meditation technique, you're basically not reacting to sensation in your bodies. And by meditating and breathing through all these sensations, it starts releasing sangharas from your consciousness. And then you're able to have less of a reaction to all the things that you're traumatized to. So I have been doing that for quite some time. And I would say Vipassana 10-day silent meditation retreats are way stronger than any ayahuasca journey I've ever taken. That I have got the most benefit out of that than anything else. It's difficult for me to meditate every single day. I'm like such a fast-paced individual, and I'm always thinking. So I do other things like sound healing to keep that meditation. So what I do is every few months, maybe every 6 months to a year, I'll go and check myself into a 10-day silent meditation retreat. And that's how I get my like year's worth of, peace, so that I can come back out and really be a more productive a person in the world.
Wow, that's great. Yeah, I've heard so many good things about those meditations. They say like you have to have someone drop you off because in day 8 you just want to get in your car and go, or like
Oh yes, yes, yes.
it is,
Actually, yeah. We say some people probably say day 8, but day 6 is like, oh my god, I'm just halfway in here. Get me out of here. So what I do is, if I get an opportunity to hang out with anybody before, which isn't all the time, I almost always tell them that I don't tell them anything, but I say, hey, if on like day 6 or day 7, you're like, get me the hell out of here, just realize everybody's thinking it. It's not just you. And, and that gives them that piece of, that gives them that piece of being grounded and staying in there. But it's really
Yeah.
like Vipassana meditation, and it's like donation based. Like anybody
Yeah.
can go. I recommend it to everybody. I've seen people go there with blood pressure issues, all types of things, and it's really helped.
Really cool. So we're at the close for tonight. I'm going to let Neil have the last kind of word here. We have Gregor, thanks for all your comments and your energy in the group. It's been really great to have you and your wisdom here. So Neil, as you say you're closing, tell us about what events are coming up, and also we want to know what was the breathing practice you mentioned. So if you can talk about that, and thanks again for being here with us tonight.
Definitely. Breathing practice. Actually, I did not mention a breathing practice. What I was saying was that, you can do a breathing technique and get to a level of meditation that also sound can do. And then the science behind the sound was that people were getting to that state that they were breathing for 30 minutes to get to, but they were getting to that state within 5 minutes. So not any specific technique for myself. I've done a few different techniques where it's like the fast breathing and getting it within yourself. But since I'm really into Vipassana meditation, I'm really into experiencing reality as it is, not trying to alter my reality, to move away from something or cultivate it. So the only breathing technique I do personally, is the deep breaths within and just breathing out of my heart. That one. I feel like a lot of times, because I'm such a heady person, I need to be in my heart. So that process for myself connects to my heart and my brain. So now what I want to share is, actually, I was wondering if I could close out with a poem too.
Yeah,
You love
yeah,
a poem? All
definitely.
right, cool, cool,
Yeah.
cool, cool. So yes, let me just tell you really quick what's coming up. We just
You
did
can
a,
share your screen if you want, or
okay. So here's a new website that isn't fully launched yet. You can see, you can just sign up there. You go straight to like the end where you can watch all these types of events. And some of the online events coming up here is, well, tomorrow, a day after tomorrow, we have Calling All Angels workshop with my good friend Joan of Angels. Following next week, we have Elizabeth April. It's going to be on there. This event right here, I'm excited for. It's our first annual Pyramid Knowledge Conference. It's going to be an annual event, and this one we have 10 speakers on pyramid awareness, everything from esoteric to ancient history to quantum physics, information science, mathematics of pyramids. That's going to be on June 6th. A couple of other ones, we have one with Trisha McKennon, Rebirth of Divine Feminine, Sacred Masculine, Quantum Timeline Jumping Conference in June as well. What's happening right now is, I set up a lot of conferences for June and July and August. So more conferences than I really ever do, because the conference energy right now is really high. Normally it's more workshops than it is conferences. But now for this year, it's more conferences than it is workshops, because the conferences is more community oriented. Everybody's on there, a lot of energy, interaction all day. It's like an all day online healing retreat, really. And since it's been so fun for people, I started creating more and more of them. Another conference I'll just mention here, and just a couple more events: Lori Spagna, Crystals, Grids, Ley Lines, and Schumann Resonance. John D'Souza, he was a FBI agent responsible for the paranormal um, paranormal cases. So he's doing a whole para investigative qualification course of all the information and what he utilized when he was in the FBI in order to investigate, paranormal in cases, so that people can go deeper into it themselves. Then also in July, we have our second annual Sacred Sites and Ceremonies online conference, in which we have 8 to 10 presenters every single year. It's actually gonna be twice a year now that we do. We have a presentation on a sacred site, followed by an indigenous sacred ceremony, followed by a presentation on a sacred site, followed by an indigenous ceremony. I love this event because not only is it an activation event, but the way I explain it is like a ley line activation of the entire planet, since we're going to these sacred sites. And many of these individuals that are going to be on it are actually going to be at the sacred sites, even doing indigenous ceremonies from them. So it's almost like a tour of the world, plus information and meditations every other presentation. So that's a few of them there. The 4-day conference that we just did, we had 37 presenters, 2 panels, 4 days. And in October, we did a 5-day
And it was
version of that.
free,
Yeah, it was
right?
free.
Yeah, it's
Donation
totally
or free.
free. Yeah.
So that was so good. I mean, it was just like such high level energy the whole time. Everybody had a lot of fun. In October, we did a 5-day version of that. And the 5 days was so intense. We had 70 speakers and we had 4 panels, 70 speakers. And I managed the whole thing. And so after that 5 days, I was like, wow, it was great, but I think I got to go down to 4 days. So, so we did 4 days, and then we're gonna do another 4-day one October. So the Portal to Ascension conference is now going to be twice a year. There's a spring one that'll be May every single year, which will be 4 days online, and then there's going to be the October one. This year is the last year. October one's going to be online. Because the first 2 Portal to Ascension conferences were live in Irvine, 2018 and 2019. So in 2022, we're going to be at Desert Hot Springs at the Miracle Springs Retreat Center, doing our live conference there. So we have the October one online, the May one next year online, and then we go live in October. And by that point, we should be doing our retreats to Petra and other places in the world too. So there's a lot going on, and the more we have all these processes automated, because it used to be very manual, and the more I'm able to create. And since we work with so many speakers and they have their own email list as well, there's really no reason not to just keep creating events.
That's great. That's
Mhm.
great. All right. So let's close with your poem.
All right, cool. So my intention and passion is consciousness, but I really wanted to automate Portal to Ascension so I could do full-time rapping, because that's my real passion, is rapping full-time. And like, I'm a freestyle rapper, so like, but then I have a lot of written stuff, and I've been doing spoken word poetry for like 13 years and over 1,000 open mics. And my wife and I actually met doing spoken word. So if you guys are interested in my spoken word or rapping, I'm MC Resonance on YouTube /MC Resonance, and I_am_resonance on Instagram. All right, here we go.
Okay, throw those in the chat afterwards, but
Yeah,
so
yeah,
we'll
yeah.
publish this. Yeah.
This one's called The Journey. The road goes on for generations. The travelers would disperse their light amongst all the willingly incarnated souls. But what of the ones that didn't know? Amnesia of the internal endowment to reserve a place in the 5th dimension for themselves. The ego took control in a better life they shall never know. I welcome you, dark one, into the lap of luxury followed by pain and woes. We all sold our souls to the devil, but the devil exists not. Negative energy we dub as evil creates the demons of whom we are fearful. Take the D from the demon, put in front of the word evil. Now I have a personified devil. Our thoughts and experiences create this creature only exists in the mind. Our desires and wants creates this full-featured ego that keeps our lower source from reaching the divine. Intellect, love, and a perfect understanding we will have with one another. I welcome you, my brother, my sister, my lover, to become one, to help me become one, before reality tears me from duality and back into ether's imagination. You see, I'm the ghost of life's past. Generations have descended to gain these experiences, and I pray the human situation is critical, mind analytical, won't let me forget the fall of angels and demons into third-dimensional world. Is this planet yours? May I hide amongst the lost souls? Hide out for a bit, drink some liquor, smoke some weed, and step outside for a cigarette? Yeah, sure, man. Here's a social security card. You may live. Reincarnated to a kid to live and give back to the society when I'm locked in borders. I smolder, but the ashes comes a horde of abstract thought. Who is not a ghost, a spirit, but just is. An enlightened individual. Equality minus elitist political goal, the cynical flow, the pain and woes, the shamanistic pagan rituals. We will resurrect the Messiah in all of us. It's time to trust our brothers and sisters. Unity of mind, consciousness, awareness on the rise. The yin-yang intertwined, masculine, feminine lovers intertwined. Spit words from the chakra points in my spine. Relentless, but still find inner peace, slow down the pace of my corrupted mind. Chemtrails, aspartame, fluoride, kept my awareness fried, getting drunk and high, but the consequence of why am I really here? But now I know it's to help humanity steer in the right direction. For every single one of you, I feel affection. We're in the same situation. So erase the awkward moments, trying to walk around and get that bonus. Remember, the Arcturians will be one of the group of interdimensional beings in the near future. The mass lanes will help us. So it's really so raise your frequency if this is what you want to see. And don't try to break free from the shackles of captivity that we formed in our own mentality, because you and I, we've always been free. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Neil. That was amazing. So well done.
Thank you.
Wow. Love it.
Here, I'll put my links in the chat too for that.
Yeah, definitely.
So I'm
Yeah,
coming
it's
out with this
amazing
spoken
how when
word.
you
Go ahead.
do like it in such an expressive way, those are the stories that kind of stick because you take us through a
I
journey.
feel like I've always felt that poetry, or just like music in general, but definitely spoken word poetry, is a way to convey entire lectures within a very short amount of
Mhm.
time. So that one's just about the reincarnation process and how all this like chaos and duality occurs, but ultimately it's all just a part of the experience.
Yeah,
Hmm.
the amnesia.
Hmm.
Great, you guys. Well, thanks everyone for joining us tonight. And we ran a little long, which we don't usually do. Well, sometimes we do, but thanks for hanging in there, everyone. Thanks for all you're doing, Neil.
Thank you
I'm
so much for
glad that
having
you're
me.
automating everything, and it does look like the Netflix of the consciousness world. So thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. I'm excited to be a part of this community, and I love what you guys are doing, and I want to be here for the ride. So we're gonna come together. Great minds are coming together. We're sharing resources, and through that, we can even have more of an effect on uplifting humanity.
All right, you guys. See you in a couple weeks.
Thank you, everybody.
Okay, ciao.